Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing today?
Great.
Thank you for
Great.
being my Monday again.
No problem. I was wondering if I should bring my pool floaty and my water wings for this episode.
Two guesses on where I was brainstorming this one. I'm sitting here doing aqua aerobics and I'm going, you know what? We need to talk about this because, you have the childhood flashbacks and stuff like that. So I think this is really important because we've had so many conversations around AI. And I even did a reel this weekend and it almost went quote unquote viral. But a lot of people are saying, or just don't use AI. And that's not an option anymore. So
No,
I think it's our responsibility to help people learn how to utilize it right. Right? I think,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Because it's cool. I use it. How often do you use it a day?
All day,
All
pretty
day.
much. All day, all day. And there's the passive usage where you go and you do it, like you have to input and get it. But then there's using AI on an automatic basis. So I'm in the process now of building a whole team of agents with specific tasks in my business that all
Yeah.
report upstream to me.
Yeah.
And those are set on an automatic basis. So
And that sounds really cool. It
mhm.
really does. But how many years did it take you to be able to do this and understand the blueprint that you were prompting in? I'm just curious. How long?
Uh, I mean, I've been in business over 20 years, but so when I'm starting to work and build the system to this, it's pulling off that many years of experience, right? And there's a lot of times where you'll see people advertising stuff like this automatic agents and things, and that's like, here's all the things you should do with it or could do with it, and you
Yeah.
jump into that pool,
Yeah.
no pun intended,
Yep.
and you end up just treading water for a while, and really in no reality does it ever do anything for you because you're trying to fit yourself into that system versus having something that's built off of what you actually need, right? And
Right.
that's where I've been doing this. I started this a week ago, and actually using Claude to build it and code it and do all that stuff. But I started in a small step, doing one specific task, which was, taking the notes from my meeting and summarizing them and pulling out some tasks that I need to do. And then from there, as I've been thinking through it, it's like, okay, what do I actually need in my workflow in my day to serve me better? And then I would add to it, and then I would add to it as it would go. And that made it a very lean system and only gave me what I needed versus
Right.
a whole bunch of stuff you don't need.
That's a big thing. We're going to go through, the pool, the water, the clean swim, and all that kind of stuff. We're using a whole bunch of metaphors today, but it's the most important thing to happen. And it's being shown a lot. And I've even fallen into that trap of we're utilizing AI or automation to take the load off of us. But what
Mhm.
we find ourselves doing too is we need to realize about this is not for you to add on more workload, right? So we're supposed to be using it to help us save time. But what are you filling that time with? Right?
Mhm.
So it's really funny and really interesting too of people. I'm seeing people utilizing it so much and they're getting burnt out even more so because you can do a presentation in 5 minutes that used to take you days, like days. I'm
Mhm.
a PowerPoint queen. It used to take us 2 days to do a big PowerPoint presentation, right? And you can do it in 5 minutes. You just give it a couple of directions and you hit a prompt and away you go. But people are actually drowning even more so in work because they feel now I can produce more and do more, and you're mucking up the waters even more so. So there's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of let's not drown kind of analogies. So we're going to talk about the pool, little bit of a story from our Gen X worlds. We're going to talk about the best practices, and we're going to talk about how to actually prompt the correct way. Okay. So the pool, the myth, the metaphor. So when I was a kid, my mom used to scare the living daylights out of us. And I'll never forget first going to public swimming lessons. And we were always threatened with this myth of if you pee in the pool, you're going to get this purple ring around you and people are going to know. Right?
That's
Did you
right.
ever get that story?
All the time, right? And you were the kid that it was based off, you didn't want to be the one to ruin it for everyone else, right? And that's what they were hoping on, right?
Right? right? Totally. You don't want to ruin it for everyone else and all that kind of stuff and get made fun of and things like that. And then when something does happen, so I even remember, I think it was a movie too. It's a Caddyshack. I can't remember which one it was when they took an O. Henry bar or Hershey bar or whatever put it in the pool, right?
Yeah.
And they drain the whole pool and do all that. I can't remember what 80s or 90s movies that was from too. But as soon as, and then during that time and in that myth, if something dirtied the water, they can drain the whole pool and start over again.
Mhm.
Right? So there's a lot of analogies for us to think about too of like, how do we keep the world and your AI world clean so that when you are doing this, because AI is our biggest public pool that we have ever shared.
That's right.
It's huge, huge. So when I say that, what comes to your brain?
Well, I mean, the idea of looking at it as how do you keep it clean is avoid, just falling into that. I can now create way more content, and I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm not gonna review it that much, if at all. And I see that a lot.
Yep.
And that's what you really need to do is you're diluting everything that's going out. So, you can sit and say, okay, the pool as a whole, like the whole AI world, I need to help do that and change that. You just need to focus on your own pool that's there. You're not going to change. There's going to be shifts and changes, and other people are going to do stuff and whatever, but stay true to what you're putting out there. If it's something that you wouldn't want your kids to be putting out, because I'll use that, when it's a parent, you want them to do their best. Right? You wouldn't want that to be the stuff that goes out. And the other thing that I've seen a lot of is you put out content, you don't read it, and then a client talks to you and they're like, oh, I love that thing you talked about in this. And you have this deer in the headlights look because you're like, oh crap. I knew I put content out, but I didn't actually read it because I was too busy. And now I look like a fool. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that happens a lot.
It does. It happens with a lot of our clients. We see it happening. And we were even just talking about the story, I think it was last week or week before, about, one of our clients went and got a whole bunch of presentations done outside of us and outside of our process. And he went and purchased all this whole, deck and content marketing bank. And he said, it looks good, but it doesn't feel like me. I can't say it. I can't present it. There is no real purpose behind it whatsoever. It looks good. It looks fancy, but it's not me. And that's so important for people to realize that your public eye, the people that are watching you, can read through that crap so quickly on how you can speak to a certain topic so quickly and have it feel like yours, right? So
yeah. And how I just a story here of how I was able to use it in mine is, I created a podcast well over 5 years ago, and I had about 200 episodes on that. But throughout those different shows, and it evolved over time, I would tell stories of things that I actually was involved in and projects we worked on. So to go back and pull that out, I used AI to scrub through every one of those episodes, and I gave it the distinct task of pulling out stories that I said about things that I did. And then we used it to then write content for social posts. So I know it'll use stories, but if anybody says, hey, I love that story, I'm going to remember it because those were actual stories over 5 years that I told that were in there. So that's how using the tools to help you be more efficient works really, really well.
I think that's such a key word, right? It's about efficiencies. It's truly about efficiencies alongside that part of what are you now going to do with that time, right? So whenever you say yes to something, you have to say no to something else. And us really understanding, especially in this world, how we are being able to move so fast, let's stay true to why we are utilizing this in the right way, right? It's so important for your mental health, your structure, your family. We laugh all the time saying, I quit my 9 to 5 to work, 24 hours a day when you become a business owner. So let's actually do something about it to fix it, right? It's huge. And I want to talk about this so much because you and I work in the background with so many people, and we're watching what's happening to people's brains, or when we're having, strategic and structural conversations about their business. And we can tell right away if what they've done up to date has all been AI prompts, right? Or if they've actually been in the trenches, in the weeds, and this is actually their true voice. So this truly is, and everyone's been fighting about any kind of study and stuff like that. People fight both sides and all that kind of stuff. There's always three sides to the story: yours, mine, and the truth. So when we're looking at it, the MIT did the whole study about EEG headsets and wired everyone's and showing brain connectivity. And so it was really interesting watching people's brain fire when they're just using their brain only. And then if they used it just for research, there was a moderate decline. And then if they just used the AI tool, even to that whole entire point, that they could not even recite or even talk about the essay they built by using just AI only. And you could be looking at this saying, well, duh, but everyone's doing this. Like, we have to be this obvious with my ridiculous metaphor of, don't pee in the pool. That's what's happening. We're sharing this biggest pool, but really pulling this out that there is this cognitive debt that is paid massively right now. Massively. What do you think about that?
I think it's well, for one, it's extremely interesting. And I think there are a lot of people that don't think of it this way yet until this is brought to them. But the idea of, if there's a task or process or whatever that you repeatedly have to do, but it takes a lot of time just for the nature of it, and you can use AI to do that task, which means you are fully capable mentally to do it anyway. Now you freed up time for that, right?
Yeah.
Where you run into problems with this is you don't know how to do something, you ask AI to do it, and you just take it for granted, and like it does it right for you. And then what I've tended to do, because I'm one of these people that likes to learn a bunch of stuff, is when it comes back and it's like, here's what you do, or here's what I did, I've actually asked them, like, explain to me how you did that, or why you did it that way, right? So it's almost like I'm using it to teach me, not just to do. In there doesn't mean that I'm going to then manually keep doing it, but I think just like, take a lawyer for example, and this is, I was a big Suits fan, and I just hear them say, like, we never ask a question we don't know the answer for already. And I think that's the point where in your business you should know how to do the most of the stuff. Otherwise you have to have a lot of faith that it's going to be done right. So how would you know what it's coming back with that's in there? And it's the same thing, if you had somebody that you trusted as a human that was in a certain role, for example, like a web designer or whatever, you're probably not going to just call the first person up and be like, here, build me a website. I don't want to see it. I don't want to do anything. Just put something up.
Do it.
Do it, whatever. I'm never going to review it or whatever. Nobody would ever do that. But that's how a lot of people are taking what AI is putting out and putting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's always the fancy new thing, right? And there's not enough data out there. There's something that scares me too when you look at it on the on the stock market, right? When something's doing nothing but climbing, that worries me a little bit, right? That worries me a lot, actually. So when we're looking at this whole entire part of, I love what you just quoted, right? A lawyer doesn't ask a question they don't know the answer to. And I think that is such an incredible thing too. You're just learning how to get the response in a quicker, faster way. And I think that is such an incredible way to put it, because there's weaker thinking that's starting to happen out there. And there's a lot of posts too of people talking about, I think AI is getting dumber. And again, we kind of blame it on AI. We blame it on, who's creating the tools or the technology. But again, if we sit and look at it, here's this very large pool that everyone has public access to. You don't even have to pay to be able to have access to it. And where does it take its information from? That pool, right? So now we've got, again, the kid metaphor, right? We've got hundreds of kids in the pool and we're going to dirty and mucky up the water. So why would you expect that pool water to be clean? Why would you expect the data to be clean by just taking from it and dipping into it, right? Right? It doesn't make sense. So when we're looking at correlations, because again, AI is so new, there's no proof or anything like that. There's just correlations that we're noticing. And if you're utilizing critical thinking, it does make sense, right? Heavy users, you have weaker critical thinking. But there's really interesting things to do of if you use or if you don't use it, you lose it. That's an old saying we have too.
Mhm.
And the older individuals that are heavy users are declining their cognitive offloading and their brains and their thought patterns are declining faster and quicker. That scares me. I'm in the 5.0 club, right? But I notice it too. If I'm having a heavy week of using AI, I have a hard time getting my words or figuring things out. It's really strange,
Mm,
but it's true, right?
absolutely.
Right. But use it or lose it, right? So I want to kind of talk about, and I think there are going to be more studies about Alzheimer's or dementia, right? There really is this really interesting onset that's starting to happen, and that up to 52% lower dementia risk with high cognitive reserve. So if you're using your brain, that's how you keep it going. That's how you keep it healthy. Right. So it's about mental activity. This is not about is AI bad or good. This is about how you use it so that you keep your mental activity, your individual thought, your critical thinking high. Those are
Hmm.
the reps we need, right? And that's what we handle, not AI. So we've got to really be, I want to be loud about this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be interesting to see over time because things are going to move again
Mhm.
more towards the voice prompting and everything like that. I see our kids here in the house, talking to the smart devices, which I won't say because there's one behind me, and having to like they're gaming and they're asking it how to get to certain things and do certain things, but they're having to vocally try to explain what it is that they want, right? And it's coming back and it's like, I don't understand, right? And like, or do you mean this? And then they're like, no, I don't mean that. And I'm just listening to them. I'm like, okay, I like that skill of being able to have to come up with what you want and vocally get that out and explain
Yep.
it. And that's the same thing with, the work that I'm doing with my own stuff is I enjoy going on a drive and using the voice part of AI and having a discussion to flesh out an idea
Yep.
versus text. For me, that there's something different about talking to it and have it come back. Obviously, if you had a real person to work with, but you don't always have that luxury. But a
Yeah.
lot of times, like we write, and I've done this, where you write in ChatGPT or Claude or whoever, and it spits out a ton of text, and you like read the last line because it's like, here's what I want you to do next, and you
Yeah.
don't read any of the reasoning that's happening there, right? Whereas the other way, you have to listen to it. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if they start to use AI for people who are lonely, shut-ins, and that type of stuff to have some types of conversations to keep their brains going. Right, that would be
Mhm.
an interesting to see if that's going to be used in that, and maybe it already is. I have not looked into
Mhm.
that, but um,
It's an interesting part too of I think there's a moral and an ethical line that has to be,
mhm,
kind of written and who's managing it and stuff like that too. But like I even utilize it for myself. When you are a business owner or an entrepreneur or whatever, it's a lonely world. It's a lonely life, right? Like
mhm,
I remember even I had a group a couple of weeks ago, so 100 and some odd women that wanted to be part of a program, and all the buying signals were there, and they said yes. And then I put together this whole program, and then none of them say yes. And you're going, what's going on? Like, and sometimes you need someone to have that conversation about, right?
mhm,
Because when you're an entrepreneur, you are stuck in your head so much as is already, and you need someone to have that conversation with. And sometimes I'm not going to always call you, or you're not going to be available, or sometimes I need to voice something out loud. So I like what you said about having the talk to text and the conversation back and forth
mhm,
versus typing it in. Because dominant number one is always the cognitive connection between your brain and writing it down and putting pen to paper. Secondary best is vocalizing,
mhm,
having it right and listening back to it. I think that is extremely helpful.
mhm.
Extremely helpful, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
As we were talking about this, I just had this idea of a product that I'm sure somebody else has already come up with, but imagine having a relative that you could sit down with and just kind of document their entire like knowledge and everything like that, and then get a voice print of them. So when they pass on, you have this AI person that you can talk to, right? In your parents' voice, like they're talking back to you, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm sure somebody's already thought of this idea, but like the idea of that, right? would be
Yeah.
really neat.
As I have tears, right? Because you and I, you and I work a lot in financial services, advice-based industries,
Hmm.
and with that is financial advisors within those industries. And there's a reason why I do it. This is not about tax codes or money or profit or all that kind of stuff. It's about how do you capture the voice of legacy, right?
Hmm.
And legacy is continuing on a generational, traditions and things like that. And then it's also about correcting. And when you said that, when AI first came out, I took a picture of my mom and I from those old 1990 photo booths, and I gave it a prompt and I said, bring my mom alive and have us, braid our hair together, showing the interwoven parts in the story of legacy of my mom and myself coming together to create something new. And I sat there and bawled my eyes out. I
Hmm.
bawled my eyes out for days. I'm trying not to, to cry again, right? Because of it. That stuff is really meaningful. It truly is meaningful. The crappy part is that there's crappy people, utilizing these pieces on the other side.
Hmm.
Right. So, but I think that would be a fantastic thing. My mother-in-law, 88 years old, we would love to have her beautiful stories about, her French family and, everything that's happened, because I don't have any parents left and I don't have any stories left. I have no grandparents. I don't know the whole entire story. I think that would be beautiful, beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful. Yeah. So no one's proven that it gives you dementia or anything like that. So I just kind of want to talk about it, but it's outsourcing your thinking skips the reps that protect your brain. So I think that's that really big point that we want to put through, right? We want to keep your credibility and your critical thinking intact, because it's just the same way of me saying, people come to us and say, hey, Kim, build my business and do this for me and do that for me. It's not my job as a strategic coach to build your business for you. My job is to help steer you through and answer the questions and have that critical thinking conversations and have someone to call bullshit on you,
Right.
or that's a great idea and that sounds like who you are. That's my job, right?
Hmm.
Just as it's your job too. Like, that's what we do. I don't know. It's interesting. The water, the water. So the best practices you and I use and we teach. Now, this isn't all, but these are just kind of pieces that we utilize in what we can talk about within an hour. There's big, huge things that we've done. So first the brain, then the tool. Brain, LLM brain. So step one is always anyone and everyone who has been extremely successful working with us. We use AI. 100% we use the tools, but we do the human work first.
Hmm.
So we build the value proposition, we build the ideal client profile. There is no AI, because that clarity becomes the filter for everything the tool does. I can give this greatest and biggest example of, is a tool going to say, Sean, who comes to you for advice? Takes that advice, applies that said advice, and gets a desired result from that advice you gave them. And then you list some people. And then I say, where did you meet them? How did you keep that relationship going? Right? When you start having those talks about the human work of taking someone down a journey, which is almost like storytelling, and helping them find who they really are and hold that mirror up. Someone shows you your superpower that you take for granted and you think it's just normal. That's the power of the human work first. What do you
Hmm.
think about that?
I think a lot of times that I've, over these years have met people who have come to me for automating things like that. They'll start out and I'll say, well, tell me about your process. And they'll come back and they'll say, well, like, what are other people doing? Like, what should I be doing? And I'll
Yeah.
push back on that and I'll be like, no, I want to know what you're doing. Because like you have to be doing something, obviously, unless it's day one of your business. But tell me that process that you're going through right now. I'll poke holes in it,
Yeah.
and all that, and then we'll figure out what technology supports that
Yeah.
along the way. So that idea of taking that human side, that because they know what works, what doesn't work, what they like, what they don't like.
Mhm.
and we amplify the like and the working good, and we minimize the don't like and the not so good
Yeah.
that's in there, right? That's the essence of it in there. So yeah, it all has to come from the human, and that's why I always say that experience over everything. And that's really the motto of what I've done in my business is
Mhm.
what's the experience you want in your business, what's the experience your clients need and want with working with you. Right, it's not what technology do you want,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody wants another piece of technology
Oh my God. No.
or that thing.
No, we don't.
Just like nobody wants another newsletter subscription,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's called herding mentality. That's why everyone keeps buying.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Where's the longest line? That must be the best thing, so I'm going
That
to
must
stand
be
in
the
that
best.
line, right?
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
and we're like, I don't know who said it to me last week, but we're headed in a way, like in a movement back to relationship. That might have been you again. I don't know. Um, I quote a lot of stuff you tell me in
Yeah.
our conversation.
Same.
That idea of moving back to that relationship is going to be key,
It's
right?
happening. Right.
Versus
So
transaction.
let's talk about celebrities because celebrities are fun to talk about because it's the absolute exaggeration of truth and reality. Right. So it's a
Mhm,
really good example. So you look at Gary Vee, and Gary Vee talks out of one side of his mouth and the other side too, and you kind of start poking holes, well, in every celebrity because they're there to make money and
mhm,
sell things just like anyone else is. But he always says, run the opposite way that everyone else is going, which I agree with, because when you look back in history, there is always this historical data about things coming back and trends coming back. We see it in fashion, we see it in architecture, we see it all over the place. We see it
mhm.
all the time. So it's happening and should naturally happen within our human behaviors because that's just what we are. That's how we're built. People are craving. So if you want to actually be a very successful business in the next couple of years, figure out how to get up in front of people face to face, be in the same room, and utilize AI to capture, to continue the conversation, to give you that structure to continue on so you can show up as yourself.
Mhm.
That's the strength. That's the flex. That's going to
Yep.
be the future. It really is 100%. Right. Brief the tool, the step two. I'm going to let you talk to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So every time you open up any type of new account, you're getting the generic stuff that's in there. So taking the time to work with it, to get it to learn who you are, and the easiest way to do that, and I tell people in workshops that I do that we'll use ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, is just ask it. So like, hey, I want you to know more about me, what I do, all that kind of stuff. So start to ask me some questions, and then I want what I tell you back, then put it in your memory. Like that's the simplest way to do it. Aside from that, you can generate documents and stuff like that about your voice and how you speak and analyze all your tone and those type of things. But when you get more into that, the better it's going to be. And trying not to have one account, and I'll use that as ChatGPT has different sections in there, and Claude has different sections like projects and custom GPTs, where the people that will go into just the general chat and try to have it do everything, that it becomes clouded and it doesn't work really well. It's just like having a team of specialists. If you've had an office, you have multiple people that do things. Some people specialize in life insurance, some people in investments and that type of stuff. Like, you wouldn't have that one person trying to do everything. There may be that case, but they're never going to be great at that thing.
Doer of all, the
It's
knower of
there,
nothing.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And the visualization to me, when you said about that, prepping you for that next step, is if you can think of AI, and Louis just posted a comment on LinkedIn on this. This says, I feel like AI is just another utility in life where striking a balance is crucial. The idea of it needs to serve you. And
Yeah.
right now, a lot of people feel like they're indebted in serving the tool. Whereas every step, every room that you go in, if it was to the point where AI was like, you've already told me what you want to get out of this room, and these are the things you need. Here's the briefing. so you can show up and be the best you can be. And then in the next room, same thing. Now there's another objective. That's the step as you go through from the initial time you meet somebody to, the next client meeting and so forth is all the stuff you need to be at the top of your human presence given to you, so you don't have to be distracted trying to find it.
Right.
If you can get to that power level, I think you have beaten the boss in the AI. To bring us back to the 90s.
Right. Who's the boss? What you said, it gave me goosebumps actually too, right? Because that is that part. It's again, we've always been prompting all our life. We're prompting and setting rooms up, and we are walking into rooms with a very specific agenda, right? With a very specific intent. That's not manipulation. That's not all that kind of stuff. That is actually moving with intentional actions. So just as you are going to a networking event, you have just one agenda. That's the same thing that happens when you're walking into your AI room. Have a specific agenda. I love that.
We have a client who went to an event last week in Ontario, and there was 39 people at this event. And I said to them, I was like, wouldn't it be great if you knew a little bit about every person that's going to be in the room, right? So you had that knowledge. And we used AI, and we had the registration list, and we scraped LinkedIn to find out, tell me something interesting about every person. And they had this to basically read through on their flight there and get an idea. So when you meet them in person, you have a bit of an understanding of who they are. That was using AI to prep them for the room that they're walking into.
Right. That is one of, I'm shaking my head, and I'm so excited because that was one of my biggest teaching when we used to lock financial advisors up in a room for a week, and we teach them all about, how do you sell? How do you become a trustworthy advisor? How do you do all these things? And the simplest thing of just researching the room that you are going to walk into. Now we can do it a lot faster with AI, but the RSVP lists are there. You know who's liking a post because everything is advertised or marketed probably on social media. Take that time and figure out who's going to be in the room and pick the 5 people. So you don't even have to have something interesting. Like I know the person you're talking about, and it's their big event, right? But if you're just going on your own, and you just want to go meet someone, utilize it to help you find 5 great people that are going to be at that event. So if the tool knows everything about you, who you are, your ideal client, what you pain you solve, well, going back to my old marketing stuff too, right? What their current situation is sitting at, what's their desired situation that because we all have this tell and we all have this connectivity. And what's the gap, that one singular thing that you can solve for them today?
Yeah. I've been to events before, register for events where, sometimes the organizer will do the whole, I'm going to CC everybody that's registered for this event and tell them something. And you get this whole list of emails and you're like, gold mine, not telling you to email them. Do not email them. That is spamming. But you can take that and see, because it's all public. A lot of times they're company emails, and now you've got information to look up their websites of who's going to be there. So you can kind of get that intel of who do I like. If I had the opportunity to sit with 5 people at this event, who would that be?
Making it very strategic and intentional.
Right. And I do want to say here, I did Lois, I believe Lois. I said Louis, and they corrected me in the thing. So I just want to say my apologies.
I don't have the chat up. It must be Lois from Harmonia.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just looked in the corner of my eye, and that's why I said Louis, because it looked like a U in there. But anyway, my apologies for mispronouncing your name. Being a Sean, I'm used to that.
We're just proving it's not AI. That's all. We are real. Okay, model professionals. I think this is really important too. So when you are setting up your AI, we all have idols. We all have people that we admire and we like, right? So taking this down this path of who are you and your connection to your people. And there's always morals, ethics, thought patterns and stuff that there's a connection. The same thing happens with which celebrities you like or which thought leaders you like too. There's one thing that is so important because AI now makes everybody, or makes it very simple for everybody to become an expert or look like an expert. Very simple, really easy. And there's a lot of people getting duped. So, right from scammers and everything. So, this part sits really heavy on my heart because I've lost some pretty big cases to people who are scammers and full of right? But you can't go out there and say, this person's a big fat duty head and they're lying about their, they're lying about their testimonials and they never did this because I actually coached that. You can't do that because people aren't going to listen to you. They're just not, as much as you want to do it.
Yeah.
But there's this really interesting part to look at between an expert and a professional. So anybody can be an expert. They're named and it's named by theory. So you're an expert on the theory on it, right? Or you are promoted from a pay to play. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have done. If you're on Forbes or any of those big places or been nominated, you've been nominated by someone else. You have paid to play by someone else. That's the truth, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can't wait. I have Alfie Brown on my podcast, and I think we're recording this week. And the guy's a PR genius, and he tells the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it is. So I like talking about professionals. Professionals actually have had the experience, right? Mm-hmm. That's that big difference of, are they talking theory or are they talking about the experience and the scars, and they've actually done the thing and have the results to show it? That's a really important thing. So I like talking about mechanics. Mechanics, a plane mechanic or an aviation mechanic will know everything. They'll know every bit and piece and part of the plane, how everything works. But the pilot knows how it reacts in a real life situation, right? If there's turbulence, if there's whatever going. So who do you want to teach you how to fly the plane? The mechanic that will teach you the theory? Well, if you do this and do that and pull back and, on the throttle or whatever, this will happen. Or do you want the actual kamikaze professional pilot to teach you how to do a barrel roll? Which one do you want?
Definitely the pilot. And when you said about these experts that can be popped up overnight, the best visual there is let them take off. They're just going to run out of runway and crash at the end. Right. They're never going to get off the ground. So you just got to let that happen.
Yeah.
That's in there. And that's the biggest thing you see a lot is people coming out with, I can teach you how to do this and I can do that. And then you realize, what have they done to actually do that themselves in the past? And that was the whole, this whole idea of the get rich quick kind of things. And all it was I'm going to teach you how to sell the same thing I'm trying to sell you.
Right.
Just repeat it and over again, right? And once you sign up for it.
It drives me bonkers. Well, even just LinkedIn now, like LinkedIn's become, it was even that part of, I put that reel up about LinkedIn and going, how about you actually change the algorithm to a part where you actually promote real professionals and experts with experience? So even when you're looking at the new and do it in your own feed, that video feed that's now in LinkedIn that's showing up so prominent, you click on the first person and there's this pretty thing or this handsome thing teaching you to buy whatever, giving their advice on their fake setup in their fake office on how to do something. And you click on their profile. They've been doing it for a couple of months. There are no testimonials. There are no endorsements whatsoever, right? Mm-hmm. Mine's got 26 or 27 years. Like yours is the same. You show up actively. You got to do the research. So it's, again, don't rely on the tool. Don't rely on the algorithm that's pushing something in front of you. Rely on using your brain and your critical thinking. Hire slow, fire fast, and stick with the professionals that have the experience and in that part of that you are trying to achieve in that moment in time. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Can you help me right now? Guardrails. Got to protect your voice. Feed it real writing samples and your client's real language, right? You were talking about, summaries from meetings or having talks into it. Verify before you trust. My gosh, it sounds so confident and things like that. And I was having fun with chat just the other day saying, okay, I'm 5'10". I've had a double hip replacement and I am 240 pounds and I want to be a ballerina. What should I do? And it's like, good for you, Kim. right? And I'm over 50. Like, it's so funny. You gotta verify. It's gonna tell you anything, right? That's just, it doesn't have critical thinking. So just verify, check the facts again. It is pulling from this big, huge, large public pool that so many people have so much access to right now. So really, really don't ever publish something that you can't stand behind and defend,
Mhm.
or actually have your own bias opinion about, right? And stay the last eyes, right? So brain, tool, brain. I've been saying that for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, right? It's the second voice in the room, not the first, and it doesn't sign off. So kind of these guardrails. Is there anything you want to add to it?
Um, I mean, you hit it all there. The biggest one to me is if it's in a written format, read it. If it's an audio format, listen to it. If it's a video format, watch it. Right, that's
Right.
the biggest thing. A lot of people will just create this content, and I said it earlier, and never read it. And a lot of people are trying to write books and content like that, and they'll take like podcast episodes and have AI write the whole book for them. But have they actually read it and in that voice?
Yeah.
And when you talked about like the marketing things of being on Forbes, two things that really stood out to me early on in learning is these people that will do books and say, hey, I can get you a New York Times bestseller, right? Which means you just have to show up once on that list. And a lot of times the day it goes out, they're the publishers, whatever, is buying the books from that, so it shows up there because it's based off of sales. And I worked with a company who wanted to have those credits on their website that said as seen on Fox and all this stuff. There's companies that sell that for $200. Basically, they publish an article on a third level news site that is owned by Fox, and technically you can say as seen on Fox. That's
Right.
all it was, right? And so even those visual credible things aren't like, we could spin up a fictitious person tomorrow and make them an expert and probably start to sell stuff. But once you start to deliver on that or can't, then the gig's up.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because even my website, I haven't touched it in years and I need to clean it up too. And there was someone that sent something to me and they were going through the prompts and was like, well, who have you helped? Who have you worked with? Because I don't see who you've worked with. And I could put Mass Mutual, Pru, Manulife, Avari, Transamerica, like companies coming out of the yin yang. I've been in the industry for 30 years, but I don't want to put that there, right? Because I don't have direct permission. There's this weird thing about, well, even my therapist, we were having a talk because every high achiever goes to a therapist and has someone to talk to. And if you don't, you should have someone. She just said, life sucks sometimes when you have big, high morals in your own business, right? There's this really interesting moral and ethical game that you really need to look, right? It's so important. And I need to, at the end of the day, what I say to all my clients too is, are you able to look at yourself in the mirror the next day? Does it feel honest? Does it feel true? Is this factful? And do you have permission? Right? Build systems, not one-offs. We always talk, and you and I have partnered 5 clients now we're working on, I think. 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's this really important part of, we're not building one-offs. Like, this is an entire big system. And I get a little frustrated with some of the companies and carriers saying, like, why aren't people buying into this as hard or as fast as I thought it would? Because this is a amalgamation of the whole entire journey that everyone needs. But that's the problem. It's the amalgamation of the whole entire journey that everyone needs.
Mm-hmm.
So we're early to the game because we've been researching this all. So it's that building the piece one by one. So even on presentations, on lives, everything you do has an intentional path towards this whole entire system that you're doing. So when you turn an actual tool or advice or whatever into a true system, and it has, I always say that saying, play the movie through, right? What's the end goal? Mm-hmm. So my business is 6 years old now. My end goal, and you know this, has always been to have this really huge L&D development tool for advice-based businesses to take them through the truth and have them actually build a business that's actually theirs on all this stuff. So everything I do amplifies on another. So looking at this, you're doing the same thing. Every prompt is a reusable template. It's automated and repeatable, and the judgment is human. right? The
Mhm.
systems, I've said it so many times, systems outlast speed every day, all day long. Client data. I want to kind of ask you about that, about client data, because it's scaring me a little bit about people utilizing it. And even in our industry, people are putting in people's financial or estate plans or stuff like that, and they're uploading it into AI, and that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Am I just old?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the first thing too, if you're not paying for the AI account, then you're paying with the data that's going in, it's being used to train.
Period.
So, if you're leased on ChatGPT or anything, like spend the 20-30 bucks, whatever it converts to, for that. But I mean, you should never be uploading critical information to that. One thing I like about Claude is their co-work side of it is, if you need things to be modified, documents and stuff like that, the co-work side actually works on your closed system on your computer. So
Yeah.
it basically just uses the computer like you would with a mouse, and like can go into your spreadsheets and whatever and modify and build reports and do that stuff for you, and it doesn't actually take that stuff and put it online, right?
Yeah.
So that's as close to where we're at with that, but we're going to see it a lot easier to, in the upcoming months and years, to be able to have very locked down closed systems that have the access to the LLM
Yep.
data, and information and knowledge and skills, but not open the gates up to the outside world to be able to
Yep.
look in, right?
Yep.
Right now that's enterprise level, but we're going to see it becoming easier.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. There's a prompt. And if everyone wants to screenshot this or doing it, I want you to be able to really start thinking and using this as an example of a prompt yourself, or using this as inspiration to really start thinking. So when you do a prompt and you've put everything in, you have your data about you, you've gone through your unique value proposition, you've gone through all those pieces, and you have a pretty good idea of who you want to target, who you are as a person, your bias, information, and opinions, and everything like that. Having a prompt of saying only use the client profile, the value profile, and the writing samples I'm pasting in below, match my voice, think like, and then put a name professional with real experience. I think that's one of those really kind of neat little things that help, right? So you have your voice and you have the think and name professional. So like mine, I love Rory Sutherland. I love Rory. And he's a crazy, anyways, I got to be careful what I say. I love the guy, but barely anybody knows about him. But he's one of the greatest marketing and branding geniuses in the whole entire world. Everything pretty much everyone's built has been off of Rory Sutherland, right? But I put him in there, right? The goal is, and here's the format I'm putting it on, and then no cliche, no filter. I want plain human language. Like really prompt it and just say, if you're unsure, ask me a question.
I think that's the powerful part right
Right?
there. And
Right
that's
there.
like when I've been building these bots I talked about earlier on, I've given it distinct instructions to say, if something is unclear, message me, and we use Slack for that, and that's what it's integrated with for me right now. But the idea is that door is always open, right? If you're in that leadership role and you have a team under you, you want that, hey, Ed, come to me with anything you got questions about, right? That's the idea. You want to look at that
Yeah.
in there and tell it to do it, and it will.
Yeah. Right. It's a really interesting thing. People think leadership is about, well, I used to say this all the time. Why would I hire a whole bunch of people if I could do that work already? Right. I want a team around me who will do the critical thinking for me, who will on the job, on the task that is desired to do. Right. So it's so important. That part with AI is giving it the prompts and the tools to understand of what is the barrier and what is the expectation, just as a good leader would give anybody else. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that whole part of setting up clear expectations and setting up everything in the right way. So keeping your water clean, don't be in the pool, right? So do the human work first, always, always, and always the last sign off are human work and eyes too. It's weird that I'm saying human work. I never thought this day would happen. This is so weird. But anyways, brief the tool like it's a contractor, not like it's a vending machine. I love that comparison that kind of come through of you've contracted it to do a job and you have to give it specific parameters. right? You are the architect and you are giving it the blueprint.
Mhm.
It's not just throw a bunch of money and stuff in there and have it vend out some bunch of crap, right?
Mhm.
Model real professionals that are absolutely have the experience and has achieved what you want to achieve. Protect your voice, verify everything, stay the last set of eyes, build systems, and don't dump waste in the pool. What do you think about my little summary here?
I think I love it. And when you said about the professionals and the experts, one thing that came to mind are these home reno shows that we've come
Mm,
to love on like HGTV. And you know, you can't renovate a house in 45 minutes, apparently. I've tried, and
no,
snapping your fingers does not change the
doesn't.
room. But you see these people that have made their living being the quote unquote on TV expert, but they're not the ones actually doing the work. They're the only ones on camera at that moment. And when they come back and the room's done, I can tell you they didn't do that.
Yep.
Right. And
And I
there's
will
stuff.
tell you that's true because I used to date one of those home and garden TV guys. So it is true. They don't do that work at all.
Yeah.
No, they
Right.
don't.
So
And it's coming out too with the influencers, right? So all of our influencers that we see, so many influencers are getting called out or that they're not true anymore or that they've lied or whatever, right?
mhm.
It's that whole entire thing. And I apologize for cutting you off. I feel bad about that. I feel like I cut you off. But it's that whole part about who you can't be an influencer and become rich off of that and do the work at the same time.
Mhm.
It's either or. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think a lot of like the influencer stuff takes a lot of time to be in the spotlight side of it. And if you're actually doing the good work, you don't have the time for that.
No.
You know, we're recently looking for like my father-in-law is looking to get his car looked at, and it's an older car. And it's like we ask around, like, does anyone know a good mechanic? Not does anyone know a good repair shop? It's like, and the things that come back is like everyone was go see this person. Like they
Yes.
work at this place, but they know vehicles inside and out, right? And they're like the people that can listen to an engine and know exactly what's wrong with it,
Oh,
right? Not the people that just like plug in the diagnostic and just do what it tells me to do,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like
Mm,
that's the person you like when somebody asks for, do you know an expert in this area? You want your name to come up, right?
yeah.
Not your firm name, right? Because people are just like, you know, that's more of the advertising and marketing stuff. Who's shouting the loudest versus who actually has seen you do the work, right?
Right? Yeah. It's
Right.
important. Love it. Love it.
Right.
Love it. Love it.
It's the campfire, right? Do you want to sit around the smoke, right? Or do you want the flame to burn, right? And that's where I look at these influencers that show it's like they just want the smoke to go further, right? And like who can see the smoke? And
Yep.
if you've ever sat around it, you know, you want that smoke to burn off, the heat to get enough that's
Yeah.
gone, and now you're just getting the flame, right?
The
I want the
flame.
flame.
No purple dye is coming to save us. So we need to keep our water clean. Don't be a tool. Treat the tool like a tool. Remember we used to call everyone tools? And it is that whole part about learn from who actually is doing the big work, right? You and I will never be, well, maybe I'm being a little presumptive, but I'll never be a famous celebrity. I will never go viral. I will never be this big, huge voice. I've had lots of opportunities, but I've said no to it because I don't want to be a generalist.
Mhm.
I don't want to sell my soul. I want to talk very specific things. So when you are doing and building a business the right way, you are talking to something very specific when people find you. I celebrated the other day because I got 100 followers or subscribers on YouTube, and my hubby's looking and going, honey, it's only 100. And I'm going, yep, but 60% of my stuff is being watched all the way through. That transforms into a successful business and a successful channel in my brain. Here we are for today. I enjoy my Mondays. Thank you so much. I
No
appreciate it.
problem.
Is
I
there
enjoy the
anything?
people that are making the comments.
Right? I like that too. I love that too. I really do. I appreciate it a lot. It's nice to see everyone showing up with us. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, if you have any topics you want Sean and I to cover when it comes to strategy, structure, tactics, all that lovely stuff, AI automation, we're happy. We're more than happy to be able to jump on here and do something for you. So that's it for me. How about you? It for you?
That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you for caring and sharing. Bye bye.
Bye.